Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Live from MDY. Today's shir is being sponsored by Nishmas Gabriel Simcha ben Shnei Zalman Alevi Deichman. The Shloshim is over 8:23. From his uncle Michael Menachem Shlomo Hacohen Segelstein, and by Noach Caplan as a Zchus for Yehuda, Tzvi, Ben Yaffa, Chassida. And happy 70th birthday to Chaim Waldman from his son Gedalia and grandsons. May today's learning be a Zchus for him, for good health at ועשרים. May he also wear his Indiana Jones hat in good health. Avi Hirschel and the unofficial official MDY youth baseball team in honor of having the pleasure of meeting Ben Schwartz in the Red Shul on our way from Los Angeles to our week-long tournament in Cooperstown. By Akiva Solkowitz. So yesterday I had a bit of confusion. I met somebody that Dovid Zlocknic brought to the shir, F202. And yesterday Akiva wrote an email and he said that he's a Hatzal guy, but I didn't recognize his face. So in fact, here it clears it up in a sponsorship. He is F94 in honor of REB Eli for teaching us the daff, and Dovid Zlocknic F200 for getting me to do the daff, also in honor of F202 and K303 in RL97ALS Advanced Life Support, and RL137, which is Hacohen Lawrence, and L83. What's L? Rabbi, I'm here with Menachem. It's amazing, fix and the ganze Olam. We're back in business. L is Lakewood. What's K? Canarsie. Kansas. Now all these guys for doing the daff strong every day. Keep it up. In this picture, you shall see Yosef Itzkowitz, Shlomo Gurston, and Aaron Hirsch, sponsoring in honor of a dear friend who never gave up on me, rejoining learning the daff daily, and would remind every few days it's never too late to start. Thank you, Shlomo. This is Shlomo, I guess, right over here, because this is Itzkowitz, Shlomo, and this is Aaron Hirsch. Huh? That's what I just said. He got Aaron to join, and it's a big thing for us. He's a big macher, Aaron. Mazdov Shlomo Benina. The honorary president, Rabbi Isai, Mr. Eli Trapper, very good. Here's a picture of us at our cousin's bar mitzvah. I'll be going to sleep afterwards while Eli Trapper, the masmid, stays up for the live Zoom share. Here he is. I had a picture of my son and Eli Trapper. That will be a different time. All right. Rabbi Isai, what time is it? Where's the clock? 7:40. Very good. Yaakov. He's back. Yisrael Adler. Dear Rebbe Eli, I missed your simcha in person. I was mishtateving your simcha. As a matter of fact, on the day of your son's wedding, I went to the tzin of the Rebbe. Zechut, praying for your son and family. The main thing is you should be blessed with gefen gesund, parnasa nachas. All right, ksiv chesima toiva. Your Talmud, Yisrael Adler. And this one is from Yitzchok Isaac Friedman. My name is Yitzchok Friedman. I did the daf every day thanks to your shir. I always had my trouble doing the daf. I can only learn with Hebrew English, so it's a big deal. Everybody does. Ever since I started with Yuma, thanks to the free Gemara, I've not stopped since. I also did this commitment to Zechut Nishmas my Zaidi, Shelly Mermusin Zechut Tzaddik who was nifter right before COVID, getting hit by a car, walking home from Ma'ariv and Tinek. So the Shom should have an aliyah. My Zaidi is definitely smiling in heaven for my learning in his Zchus. Mazel tov to really shir, especially to Rabbi J. Nathanson. Big guy. He wrote a nice article the other day. And Rabbi Aboff for their encouraging words in my daff journey. All the best. Yitzchak Friedman, Bayswater, New York. Boyside, here we go. Wow. Thank you. It's great to be back. Somebody, one of the shortest emails I ever got yesterday was, Dear REB Eli, do you have a dog? Because at the end of the shir, some clown decided to knock on the door and woke the dog up, woke the whole family up. Yes, so if you're not aware, my son was in the yeshiva 2 years ago, and the yeshiva had many meetings with us discussing one thing, that we have to get a dog for Akiva Simcha. We have to get a dog. And I told him the time, I said, but he's going to go off to yeshiva, and we're going to be stuck with the dog. It doesn't matter. So now he's in America, and we are stuck. Ooh, that's a good one. But guess what? Simcha Sussman is in America also. He's also in America. When he comes back, that'll be great. I'll just bring him the dog. Unbelievable. Yes. Halavai. I might have to be there also with him since my wife is a little bit attached to that dog. All right. So here we go. Daf Mem Vav Amud Beis. So yesterday we had a machlokas. If somebody sets aside, where is it? Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 lines from the bottom. If somebody uses his esrog on the final day of Sukkot, is the mitzvah over or not? Could he use the mitzvah? Could he use the esrog? Or is it migad iskatzoy? Once it becomes muktzah for the mitzvah, it's muktzah for the rest of the day. So, we have a similar machlokes like that machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish. Interesting words here. The itmar, not Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish. Other Amarot. Hifrish Shiva Esrogim Shiva Yomim. If a person set aside 7 esrogim for 7 days, somebody sent me a video of Chaim Kanievsky shaking the lulav of an esrog. I'm talking about 50 esrogim at least. It's one, like give it to him, and he doesn't. He just goes like this. Boom, boom. Just the esrog, not the lulav, because the lulav you can see that is kosher. You see the tumus is this. You see that it's just the esrog. Is this zan, this zan. So 50 of them. Here for Shiva esrogim. So here's another guy. Set aside 7 esrogim l'shiva yom. Each day he wants to be makbid. Shouldn't have any brown dots from his holding it. 7 days. So now they're the same shaila. When he's done with that esrog, oh, Dr. Epstein Sholom Aleichem, it's great to see you. So when you're done with that esrog, are you done? Could you eat it? Or no? It doesn't matter like we had yesterday. If the pitim breaks off on day number 1, it's also to use the entire 7 days. So here's the machlokes again. Rav says, once the mitzvah is over, like your shlokish finished, you could go and use it right away. You could eat it. Rav Asi Omar, so only afterwards you could eat it. What's machlokes? It's only you only set it aside, designated it for the mitzvah. Once the mitzvah is over, it's over. No, I designate for that entire day. Once the day is over, I can use it after that day. So if I have esrog just for the 3rd day chalamoyed, excuse me. So once that day is over, then I can use the esrog. Because I designated it only for 1 day. It's not like the first case where I designated for 7 days and it broke. The pitim broke in day 1. Over here I designated for 1 whole day, but the whole day you cannot eat it, even though I'm done with the mitzvah in the morning. Yeah, that's not the problem. It's a different problem. Unresolved. Rabbi Sai, take a look at this. It's a little different than the other calendar. Ignore that other calendar I made. This is more accurate because it's the month of Tishrei. So, this is Chutz La'aretz, okay? This is, blue is Eretz Yisrael, let's say. Blue and red is Chutz La'aretz. If Rosh Chodesh is over here, Aleph, which is the 30th day of Elul, then Yontif falls out on Tesvav. I love the way it all lines up here nicely. Fine. If this is like in Eretz Yisrael, you do Rosh Hashanah right over here, then Sukkot falls out right over here on the 15th, and then Hoshana Rabbah falls out over here. Okay? Sorry. Hoshana Rabbah falls out over here. Simchas Torah, Shmini Atzeres falls out over here. So again, Rosh Hashanah, first day of Yontif, and Shmini Atzeres. And Hoshana Rabbah, which is the 7th day, so I did it very nicely here. This is day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th day of Sukkot is called Hoshana Rabbah. The 8th day is called Shmini Atzeres, and that Sukkah that we're going to learn today, it's a Chag B'fnei Atzmai, it's its own Yontif. However, if you're in America, you're in Chutz La'aretz, and you did 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Well, we do also 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, but you have a Sveika D'Yoma. You don't know if Rosh Chodesh fell out over here, but we do in Eretz Yisrael just for Achdus of Klal Yisrael. Fine. So then, when is the first day of Sukkot? is the first day of Sukkot over here, or in the red over here, and therefore in Chutz La'aretz they keep these 2 days of Yontif. Now, once you fast forward to the end of Yontif, you have the same exact problem. Is Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah, same thing, right? Shmini Atzeres, the 8th day, it's on Chag, Simchas Torah in the blue, or is Simchas Torah in the red? Where it's Israel, it's a weekday and everybody's on the buses and driving around. So that's the sugya now. But first we have to talk about the esrog. Omar Abaya, what do you do about the esrog right over here? Can you eat your esrog on Simchas Torah? Is Yontif over or not? Omar Abaya, Shmini Sofik Shvi Osur. You're not allowed to eat the esrog on Shmini. You see this? Look down here. It says 8. This is the 8th day from the beginning of Yontif. 1, 2, 3, 8. So this is Shmini, but Suffolk, perhaps it's the 7th day from the red. If you're in Chutz La'aretz, you're in England, and you thought that we think we have to be Mesupik. Maybe this is the first day of Yontif. So if you count 7 days from the red, it's right over here in the 8th. So this blue box is called Shmini, Suffolk Shvi. It's 8 days from the blue, 7 days from the red. It's 8 days from when you know for sure in Eretz Yisrael, it's the 8th day. And Memela, it's Shmini Atzeres, it's Simchas Torah. But it's a Suffolk, maybe it's the 7th day in Chutz La'aretz. So the esrog would be Asr. Why? Because, as we're going to see, you have to sit in the Sukkah. What happens on this day? Very interesting. This day, and this is today's big sugya, a very controversial halacha. You don't shake a lulav and esrog on this day, but you do sit in the sukkah. That's the halacha in the Gemara. You sit in the sukkah. We're going to discuss why the Chassidim don't, or others. But the Gemara says you sit in the sukkah, but there's no lulav. Okay? So if there's no lulav, but you sit in the sukkah. So Mamela, that's why you cannot eat the esrog. It's still part of Yontif. You're sitting in the sukkah. Savik Shmini Mutter. What about this day right over here? 9. You see over here, the box says 9. So it's the 9th day from the beginning of Yontif. In Eretz Yisrael, it's a weekday. But in Chutz La'aretz, it's still a Suffolk. Maybe it's Yontif. Maybe it's Simchas Torah. This is when they celebrate Simchas Torah. Mutter, you're allowed to eat the esrog. Why? Because it has nothing to do with sukkahs. You're not sitting in the sukkah at all. Even over here, even in Chutz La'aretz, you're not sitting in the sukkah. It's Simchas Torah, nothing to do with the sukkah. So maybe the mitzvah of the esrog is over and done with, and you can eat the esrog. Merema says, even in this blue box, where it's the 8th day in Eretz Yisrael, 8th day to the first day of Yontif, and the suffix of the 7th day, you're still allowed to eat the esrog. Why? Because, yes, you're right, you're sitting in the sukkah, but you're not making a bracha on the lulav and esrog. So there's no mitzvah of esrog that day. If there's no mitzvah of esrog that day, you can eat the esrog. Okay. They said it's mutter to eat the esrog in the blue circle. Rav Shisha Bereder, Rav Idi Ovad Ka'abaya, and the halacha v'ilchas Ka'abaya that it's also to eat the esrog on Shmini, which is Suffolk Shvi. In other words, the first day of Yontiv, Shmini Atzeres in Eretz Yisrael. Omer Rav Yehuda Bereder Rav Shmuel Bashir Mishmei Rav Shmini Suffolk Shvi, and here we go, the big famous sugya. What? Why is the halacha like that? Because you have to sit in the sukkah. No, it's all the same. The mitzvahs are. That's one svar, but the other svar is it's still Suffolk sukkahs. The reason why we don't. I'm going to go into why we don't check the lulav and esrog. But the tali hach ba'ach l'chayra. Lulav and esrog sukkah. Although lulav and esrog is the rabbanon, the sukkah is the eraisa. But we're saying that it's a day of sukkahs. Perhaps it's a suffix. On that side, it's still part of the mitzvah. You shouldn't shake it. If you want to know the real, I'll skip ahead. The reason why you shouldn't shake it is because of an isser about toisef, because it's nicker that you're shaking it for the mitzvah of sukkah, of lulav. Whereas, I don't want to skip ahead. I want to go into the sugya deep a little bit because of this little bit of a controversy. So, oh, sorry. Let's go again. Shmini Savik Shvi, this day right over here, the first Shmini Atzeres in Eretz Yisrael, which is the 8th day, it's the day after Sukkah, so to speak, Shmini Atzeres, but still a suffix, maybe it's the 7th day in Chutz La'aretz. What's the halacha? Shvi l'Sukkah, you have to sit in the Sukkah. U'Shmini l'Bracha. What does that mean, Shmini l'Bracha? You make the bracha of Shmini Atzeres in Shemona Esrei, in Birkas Hamazon. You say, Shmini Chag Atzeres Hazeh. It's like a contradiction. You're dancing on two chasanas. You're doing a yontif called Shmini Atzeres, but you're sitting in the Sukkah. You're acting as if it's Sukkahs, but you're saying that it's not Sukkahs. No, you don't sit in the Sukkah, and you don't make any mention of Sukkahs. You say Shmini Chag Atzeres Hazeh. So now the Gemara on the first attempt says, Meisiv Kuli Amaloi Palgin in the Yasvinon. Everybody agrees that you sit in the Sukkah. Even Rabbi Yochanan. Keep pleading, Levaruche. Do you make a bracha, top of Mem Zayin Amud Aleph? Leman do Amar Shvi l'Sukkah. According to Rav, who says that this day is considered it's considered Sukkahs. Baruch Nami V'Archinu. You make a bracha leishiv basukkah. Not only you go into the Sukkah, you make a bracha leishiv basukkah. Leman do Amar, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Shmini Lezel Lezeh. This day right over here has a halach of 8. You see down here it says 8. It's the 8th day for everything. Baruchi nami baruchi loy mevarchinon. You don't make a bracha. Okay, but you do sit in the sukkah according to this also. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you sit in the sukkah. Do we have a mandama that says that you don't sit in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres? Not yet. Because even right now, the Gemara says you sit in the sukkah, you just don't make a bracha. Omer Rabbi Yosef. Nekoy Rabbi Yochanan biyadach. Rabbi Yochanan is right. Why? Ma'aseh shahaya. Listen to this story. It's an incredible story. It needs a lot of explanation. The Rav Huna bar Bizna v'chol Gdoilei Hadar, not stam people. Gdoilei Hadar. Imagine in your mind who the Gadol Hadar is. The Chavetz Chaim and all the Rebbes. Iklu lebesukah b'shmini sofek shvi. They happened to come to a sukkah on the 8th day, Shmini Atzeres, which is only a suffix that maybe in Chutz La'aretz it's the 7th, but in Eretz Yisrael they're dancing with the Torah, it's Simchas Torah, the whole thing. Meisev Avi Yasvid, they sat in the sukkah, Baruchi loy Baruchi, they didn't make a bracha. So here's a raya that you sit in the sukkah, you don't make a bracha like Rabbi Yochanan. As the Gemara of Dimasfir looking on the Omar Kivin Sheberach Yontav Rishon Shuvein Mevarach, we had a whole sugya. Maybe remember Shmuel holds you only make a bracha the first day of Sukkos because it's one long mitzvah. Since you have to eat and sleep in the sukkah consecutive, there's no break at all. So he says you make one bracha in the beginning, you yaitz then. Then we brought a right from Tefillin that even you go to the bathroom, you do make the fine. But according to maybe they held, they already made a bracha the first day of Yontav. That's why they didn't make a bracha. Says the Gemara, incredible. Listen to this. According to Rashi, Kimiri de Ma'afarosu. They came from the dirt, meaning the entire Yontav. These Gdoilei Hadar were shepherds. They didn't have a sukkah. Mamish, it's so hard to understand. How would a Gadol Hadar shepherd his animals and not make a little sukkah next to his animals? One pshat that I heard and nobody says it, besides, I don't remember what it was, the Marshal, like one of these Achrayim, that maybe it was in the time of the Gzeira and they weren't allowed to stay in a sukkah. So the 8th day they could. It's not mentioned. It just seems like they were busy working. They were working people. In those days, no kailim, nobody supported them. Every Tana, every Amor, they had a job. But they were the Gedalia. They were busy thinking and learning. And they weren't worried about the mitzvah sukkah. And now they finally, they chaparayim, the 8th day they were able to do the sukkah for the very first time of all of sukkahs, and they didn't make a bracha. But they sat in the sukkah. Unbelievable. Another pshat is, everybody agrees, there's no machloik, is that on the 8th day of Shmini Atzeres, you don't make a bracha. Kipligi lemeisav. But do you sit in the sukkah or not? It's considered mamish sukkahs. Meisav yisvinin. You sit in the sukkah. That's Rav. According to Rabbi Yochanan, that it's considered the 8th day. It's not considered sukkahs at all. It's considered Shmini Atzeres. Meisav nami lo yasvinon. You don't sit even in the sukkah. So over here we have a shita. You don't sit in the sukkah. Omer Rav Yosef. Nekoy Rabbi Yochanan biyadach. Rabbi Yochanan is right. The Mord Shmaita Mani, who said over in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Yehuda b'Red Shmuel bar Shelas. He's the one that said over Ubishmini Sofek Shvi lebar Mesugi Yosef. He himself didn't even sit in the sukkah. Okay. I'm sorry, who's the one that said it over in the name of Rav? Rav is the one that says you should sit. This Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda himself didn't listen to Rav. He did like Rabbi Hirschel, he didn't sit in the sukkah. Says the Gemara, listen to this. This, I think everybody knows this line. It's a very, very famous line. You see there's a tzion here in the Shulchan Aruch, Aleph. What's the halacha? Rabbi Yisai, on Shmini Atzeres, you sit in the sukkah, you eat in the sukkah, but you don't make a bracha. So when I first got married, my very first sukkahs was in Chicago, and my shver was invited out to some family, and they started, like, they made kiddush or something, and then they all went into the house. I was like, what's going on here? What are you doing? She says, what do you mean? You're not allowed to eat in the sukkah? So I go open up the Mishnah Berurah. There's no mention in the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah brings, the Shulchan Aruch brings this halacha. You're supposed to sit in the sukkah, and you don't make a bracha, but you're supposed to sit in the sukkah. What are you talking about? I was all confused. So I decided, me and my wife, we sat in the sukkah by ourselves. They started serving us, and that was it. Then I learned not to go out with my shver. What is going on here? So Baruch Hashem, now I had some time. I'm looking at the sugi now. So it goes like this. There's no mention in the Mishnah Berurah even of this minhag, not to eat in the sukkah. It says you eat in the sukkah. There's a sefer. Did I bring it? Yeah. Yisoidos hanoyeg lihimona. Be careful not to. Somebody wrote a whole kuntres not to sit in the sukkah. The Vilna Gaon in Ma'aser Rav, he says that he was the most makbid on Shmini Atzeres to sit in the sukkah, to eat in the sukkah, and to sleep in the sukkah. Why? Because he said it's the Rabbanon. And on the Rabbanon, if you're over in the Rabbanon, you chayiv misa. He says whoever doesn't sit in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, chayiv misa. The Taz and the Magen Avraham bring this minhag of not to sit in the sukkah, and they go wild. The moicha, it's usher. How can you do this? So what's Takab Pshat? So in the Machzor Vitri, Rishon, he brings this inyan of the reason why we don't shake a lulav, and Taisus talks about it. Why don't you shake a lulav on that day? If it's so important to sit in the sukkah, the Vilna Gaon, so why don't you shake a lulav? The answer is because Taisus says that a lulav is muktzah. So why are you taking a lulav now? Because obviously you hold it sukkahs today. So that's a problem about Taisus. If you're sitting in a sukkah and relaxing and eating, maybe it's not about, maybe you want to stop anyways. Sometimes you go outside to your backyard and eat. Right, Noam? You eat outside. You have meals over there in your sukkah. Fine. But he brings Rabbi Yossi Mikinin that didn't sit in the sukkah. So that's early, in the time of the Rishonim already, there were those who weren't sitting in the sukkah. The Maharil, Rishon. You don't sleep. He makes a nafkamina, and the Mordechai talks about it. What? Yeah. Right, the fear of Al-Tais. So the Mordechai and the Maharil, they talk about not sleeping in the sukkah. Because but when eating, it doesn't look like you're about Taisif, but sleeping, if you go out of your bedroom into the sukkah, then it's obvious that you're doing this for sukkah, and that's a problem about Taisif. And then Elif HaMogim brings that a lot of tzaddikim didn't sit in the sukkah. The Gross slept in the sukkah because he paskin not like the Mordechai, like the Rashba. The other Rishonim, I'm bringing the ones that say, I'm trying to be Milam and Zchus, yeah, 100%. 1 minute, I'm getting there. The Baal Shem Tov, I'm going to explain the Chassidim the best I can. I'm trying to. No, I found it interesting. The Chavetz Chaim doesn't even mention. Like, you should say, Yesh, loy ochel basukah, ve'ein lasoy, so whatever. He doesn't even mention them. He ignores it completely. I was like, what is going on here? I told my Chavrusi yesterday, he didn't know there's such a minhag. Tonight, he didn't know. A Litvak in Eretz Yisrael doesn't know about it. You have to be in America, in a Chassidish environment, to even know there's such a thing. He didn't know. He says, it's impossible. He starts looking, he couldn't find anything. I'm just telling you, whatever, fine. So, Talmud, the Magim is rich, they used to do this thing that my Shver did. Make Kiddush, eat Mezainis, and leave. And they said, and according to, you also do it like that? Little bit of you have a Haimish thing. And they say that the Baal Shem Tov also, l'chayra, they say the Baal Shem Tov didn't eat in the sukkah. Fine. So what's going on here? So here's a great pshat, great limud Zchus. Dar HaShulchan and the Karban Hasanel, they say a similar thing, that this idea that when we don't shake a lulav, why? Because of Baal Tosef. It's obvious that you're doing it for sukkahs, for no other reason. A normal person on a Wednesday afternoon doesn't shake a lulav. But when you sit in your sukkah and you're having a bar, you're enjoying yourself, great. But in America, in Europe, when it's freezing cold, it's 20 below zero, who's going to sit in the sukkah? So obviously you're sitting in the sukkah for the mitzvah sukkah. So comes out that in Eretz Yisrael, or in Florida, in Los Angeles, where the weather is nice, you'll have a major problem if you're Hasidish. And in fact, somebody wrote me, Rabbi Groskopf from London, he said when he was learned by Rabbi Scheinberg said that this doesn't apply in Eretz Yisrael, and he locked the doors to the kitchen. He said, if you're Hasidish, you have to eat in the sukkah. In Eretz Yisrael, you have to eat. So it's interesting because a lot of times you say these minhagim come from, so you say in Europe's like this, and then people forget why the minhag started. It's only because there's a problem about Taisa. But the Shulchan Aruch says you shouldn't eat in the sukkah. So it doesn't apply when on a day that's boiling hot in America, it wouldn't apply. So you have to, once the minhag, but it's to be oiker something. It's like mamish. It says hilchasa. Hilchasa. I miss you, Avi. I miss you. All right. Let's go weiter. I have no idea what time it is, but it was kedai to talk about it because it's a big zach. At least people should know that there's a big thing here. Look into it yourself. Fine. I know I'm not going to change anybody's mind. Everybody has a thing in them, but know why you're doing it. Nobody's ever called me. I would say, I'm a Bavich and I started sleeping in the sukkah because of you.
Hirschel called you.
Who?
That's the one.
Oh, Oyrim Zman Bishmini Shel Chag. So should we say the halacha again? Vilchasa. The halacha is Meisiv Yismin. You do sit in the sukkah and eat in the sukkah. Baruch Elohe Mevarchin, and that's why some Rishonim and Medayik only to eat but not to sleep. Fine. Oyrim Zman Bishmini Shel Chag. It's a yontav by itself. So you say Shechiyanu v'Kiyimanu v'Kiyimanu lazman hazeh. Zman is Shechiyanu. Ve'noyrim Zman B'Shvi Shel Pesach. However, the 7th day of Pesach is different than the 8th day of Sukkot. What's the difference? I'll tell you the big difference. It's very different in 3 different things. B'sukkah, you don't sit in the sukkah. There's no chiv sukkah. V'lulav, v'nisach hamayim. Nisach hamayim, just for the fun of it, we're going to talk about it more. Nisach hamayim, standing on top of the mizbech, pouring the water on sukkahs. Will the Rabbi Yehuda the Omar Beloy Goyim Menachem Kol Shmoina? Rabbi Yehuda argues on 2 things, says Rashi. First of all, you don't need 3 lug, you need only 1 lug. But the point is, he says, you do pour the water on the 8th day. So the 8th day of Sukkot, or not a Sukkot, but the 8th day from the beginning of Sukkot, is not different in. Okay, fine. At least it's different in a Sukkah and Lulav. You don't have to eat matzah on the 7th. You could eat non-chametz. You're not mechuyev to eat matzah. You could eat apples. Says the Gemara, the Omar, Laila Rishon Chayva Mikam Elach Rishus. You only mechuyev on the first night. What's the connection? Awesome. Milayla Chaluk, Miyarmena Chaluk. Even Pesach, you only chayv to eat matzah the first night. The following morning, you're not mechuyev to eat matzah. You can eat macaroons. You can do whatever you want. So it's not even a difference between the 7th day of Pesach and the first day. It's different from the entire Pesach. So why would you say Shechiyanu there? Says Gemara, fine. Ravina Omar Zecholok Mishalfanov Zecholok Mishalfneifanov. You're talking about the 8th day is different than the 7th day. Over here, he's saying that the 7th day of Pesach is different than the first day of Pesach. You're going way, way back. So why would you say Shechiyanu? Or Papa, Hacha Ksiv Par, Hasam Ksiv Parim. So this is very important, Rabbi Isai. If you want to remember, very, very simple. On Sukkot, the number is 14. 14. So, for instance, the final day of Sukkot, you bring 7 cows, plus 7 days of Sukkot equals 14. The first day of Sukkot, you bring 13 cows, and it's the first day of Sukkot. So 1 plus 13 equals 14. It always equals 14, and you keep on going down. 13, 12, till the final day. So what should be on Shmini Atzeres? 6 cows plus 8 days equals 14. But what does the pasuk say? Pareh echad, 1. So you see from here that it's a different yontiv. It's yontiv b'fnei atzmoi. Rav Ashi Omar Hacha Ksiv Kimishpat Asam Ksiv Kimishpatam. It's its own mishpat, its own halachas, not Kimishpatam, cumulative halachas. Did I skip? Yes. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Omar Hacha Ksiv Bayoim Asam Ksiv Uvayom. Here you can see Uvayom is a continuation from the day before. Uvayom Ashishi and Uvayom Ashvi, and it's Vav Moisef. Over here, all of a sudden it says Bayoim. It should have been read Bayoim Hashmini, not Uvayom. It's its own little entity. The 8th day, it's a day b'fnei atzmai. It's not Uvayom. It's not a continuation of the 7th. It's Bayoim. It's by itself. Fine. Another raya that it's its own yontiv. How do I know? I'll bring you a raya that you say Shechiyanu v'kiyimanu on Shmini Atzeres on the 8th day. Haparim ha'elim v'hakfasim makim zezeh. Right? So all these on Yontiv, you bring, let's say, 7 cows on this day, plus two rams and 14 sheep. Every day 2 and 14. Makim zezeh. What if you have only 13 sheep? You don't bring them. I think it means all of them. Not 100%. I saw it, Rishonim, fine. But if you're missing one, you don't bring any. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Paramei Makvin Zezeh, but the cows are different, says Rabbi Yehuda. If you don't have 7, you only have 6, bring the 6. Why? Every day it keeps on going down. You see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't really mind. Interesting svara. He started with 13, then he went to 12. So today you don't have 7, you have 6. No, nishkeferch. What do you mean? But at the 8th day, it's completely different. It's 1 ram and 7 sheep. Okay, it's its own. Don't bring me any rye from there. It's its own entity. Oh, what's so different about it? Every single day, you have to bring its own carbon. Different carbons. Vishir. And you talk about, Rashi says, you talk about the poor people, the aniyim. And the Shir Shel Yoim of Shmini Atzeres doesn't talk about the poor people. He says, I don't even know what you say exactly, I'm not so sure, but it's not about poor people. Ubracha. We're going to see what bracha means. Velina. So lina, we learned about this. Lina is anytime you bring a carbon in the Beis HaMikdash, it says in the Pasuk, in the morning, you go home. You do not go home at night. You must stay in a hotel in Yerushalayim. Lina. Ashmini, so too, Shmini Atzeres, it's a yontiv by itself. Ton, carbon, you have to bring its own karbanis. Vishir, it gets its own shir shel yaim. Ubracha, you make its own bracha. That's the whole point of the Gemara now, what that means. Velina, you have to sleep over there. Turning to them, Zayin Beis, my lav, Zman. Are we talking about Shechianu? What does bracha mean? Bracha means you make a Shechianu like we do today, by the way, right? Women, when they've been shlich, in Kiddush, it's its own yantif. Like who? Like Rabbi Yochanan. We're trying to prove, like Rabbi Yochanan, he's supposed to say Shechiyanu. We just turned to Mem Zayin Beis, sponsored by the White Hill Group. For all those in each, Shidduchim Refusi Shus. Please join Tilim 8mindav.com by Shlomo Lazarian from Los Angeles in honor of Eli's wife for sacrificing her life in order for Eli to prepare shir. It's the first time you heard it, huh? He's saying, psh. New to the share. Shalom Aleichem, Yosef Biliak. Shalom Aleichem. No one's able to react. This is the first thing I got. Yeah. Says Gemara, we're not talking about, don't bring a raya from here that you're supposed to say a bracha. Doesn't say zman, it says bracha. What bracha? You decide on your own. The bracha is Shechiyanu. No, there's other brachas, by the way. Birkus HaMazon u'tefillah. That in Birkus HaMazon, you don't say Chag HaSukkos hazeh. You say Shmini Chag HaTzeres hazeh, or whatever your nusach is. With tefillah, Shmoneh Esrei also, completely different Shmoneh Esrei. I'll prove it to you. Because if you're talking about Shechiyanu, Zman kol shiva mi'ika. It says that during Sukkot you say a bracha every day, but you don't say a bracha every day. You only say Shechiyanu once in the beginning. Says well, that's not great proof. Holy Kasha. Now the rest of the Gemara is going to tell us that's not good proof. Holy Kasha. Maybe the Gemara, the Bryce is only telling us that they didn't mechuyev to say Shechiyanu. but you have the option to say Shechiyanu if you forgot it. But what do you mean? You have to say it you can't say Shechiyanu Stam. What do you walk in the street and say Shechiyanu v'kiyimanu? You have to hold a cup of wine, Shalom Aleichem, cup of wine and say Shechiyanu. So, let me say Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman's man oimroi afilu b'shuk. Maybe it's a good right to Rav Nachman, and this is how we paskin. You could just say Shechiyanu Stam without a cup of wine. The hours being in Kais kol yoyma mi'ika. Where's he going to find it? Dilma dikla Kais. Not a good raya. At the end of the day, somebody gave him a cup of wine. It's not a big deal to find a cup of wine in Chaim Waldman. This Savar, by the way, Rabbis, I'm getting all excited because we still have to start preparing. We do these beautiful shiurim, Chalamayit Sukkahs in the morning, in the Sukkah, with eggs and omelets and pancakes and wine. We have wine. Even in Chalamayit, we have wine on the table. Zok Gemara. I'm getting excited. You know why? Because I was thinking about it. This year, I'm not going to be lazy. I'm going to build a giant sukkah on my porch, the entire porch, to house. And why? Because of this geshmaka, to build the sukkah. I'm going to build the sukkah. I'm going to, Yeshua is going to build most of it. I'm going to put the last. The hours being in Kais, I'll climb on the ladder and pretend it's so hard to put the Succah, one piece. Yeah, fine. V'savar Reb Yehuda, Shmini Ton Lina, what? You have to sleep in Yerushalayim. Stop, we're going off now on a tangent. You have to sleep in Yerushalayim on the 8th day, on Shmini Atzeres. V'tanya, Reb Yehuda, Omer, Menayla, Pesach Sheni Ton Lina. If somebody was Tameh the first Pesach and he brings his carbon Pesach on the second Pesach, he does not sleep in Yerushalayim that night. So shouldn't Shmini Atzeres be similar to Pesach Sheni? Why should it be similar? Right, this pasuk. You're supposed to eat matzah 7 days. Sheish yom, whatever. Eshetal and shisha tal lina. Eshe'enetal and shisha enetal lina. Bekitzer, review the darshans that if it's a giant yontif with 7 days, then you sleep over Yerushalayim. If it's a 1 day yontif, like Shmini Atzeres, what else is a 1 day yontif? Shvuas. You don't sleep in Yerushalayim. Yeah? Says the Gemara, isn't it also coming to exclude a 1 day yontif of Shmini Atzeres? The Gemara say something that's exactly like Pesach, but it's called Pesach Sheni. That's the time you don't sleep in Yerushalayim, but Shmini Atzeres you do sleep in Yerushalayim. Beautiful. Bikurim is this week's parsha, the beginning of the parsha. You have new fruit, the new crop. You bring a basket full of fruit to the Beis Hamikdash. And I don't know if Doilam knows this. To unim carbon. Not only do you bring your fruit, you have to bring a shlamim, v'shir, and you say a special shir called Arimimcha Hashem Kidid Lisani, the whole thing. Utnufa, and you shake it like a lulav. You pick up the basket and you go like this. I don't know again. I'm not going to go into it and make fun of Sfard again. You go this way, you go all the way around. Not stam lift. You got it. This is where we took it from. Like this in the Beis Hamikdash, the Tnufa, Velina, and you sleep over there. Man Shamas Leidom at Tnufa. Who's the one that holds? You have to shake it. Rabbi Yehuda. V'kamar Tunalina. So even though Bikurim, how many days is Bikurim? 1 day. So here you see the idea that even if it's a 1 day excursion, or whatever the word is, excursion to Yerushalayim, you still do Lina. You still sleep over. You can't do it in and out. What is it called when you have that quick surgery? Yeah, but this is a bit outpatient. In and out, boom, boom. There's no such thing. Once you go to Yerushalayim, you stay there. The Sayyid Rabbi Omer, v'nachtoi, zu tnufa. So here's the pasuk says like this. The pasuk dalat says, so he already placed it down. He already put it down. So then why in pasuk Yud does it say? And the Yisrael says this whole long thing. Hashem v'nachtoi. He already v'nichoi. What's going on here? There's 2 hanachas. You put it down twice by the mizbeach. Maybe the word v'nachtoi, literally in Hebrew, means to put it down. Who told you v'nachtoi means to wave it around? Because I already said in pasuk daled the word v'nichtoi, you put it down. So what does it mean that he put it down? Again, zut nufa. So from this pasuk I learned the idea of waving. Now, so you see that it's Rabbi Yehuda that says this. So Yehuda holds that you need lina one day. Says the Gemara, "V'dilma Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov." There's another mandama that says that you have to wave it. The Sanya v'lokach Hacohen atenem yodecha limed al bikurim shetun etnuva. From this pasuk, Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov learns that you have to wave the bikurim, the whole basket. The Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. My time in the Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. Where did he get it from? Asya yod mishlamim gzer shavar from shlamim. Ksivacha v'lokach Hacohen atenem yodecha. Again, it says the word yad. Yodecha. So we go back and forth. Just like over here by Bikurim it's Kohen, so over there by Shlomim, Shlomim it's also Kohen. You see, both of them do Tnufa. But how do both of them do Tnufa? Okay, Tzad. The Kohen, here, I have a picture. So this is a beautiful picture. Why? The Kohen, here's the Kohen. He puts his hands underneath the basket, and the Yisrael holds the basket by the rim. Why? Because Taisus points out, this picture is very meduya. Not like the Gemara says, you should put your hands under the hands, like it would seem like. Literally, Taisus says that's chatzitza. Then the Kohen is not touching the basket. He needs to do a tnuva to the basket. So a melo, like in the picture, they're holding it in two different places. Fine. But they're doing it at the same exact time. Very interesting. How they do back, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's like literally like Chaim Kanevsky, kind of, a little bit. You don't have to like, he's like swing the guy over his shoulder kind of thing. All right. Do you say Shechiyanu v'kiyimanu on Shmini Atzeres? Menachem Omar Oimrim Zman b'Shmini Shulchag. You do. Rav Sheshes Omar Oimrim Zman b'Shmini Shulchag. V'ilchasa, and this is what we do today. Oimrim Zman b'Shmini Shulchag. You say Shechiyanu v'kiyimanu. Do you say Shechiyanu v'kiyimanu on the 7th day of Pesach? Absolutely not. No shayches. That was our sugya. Only the 8th day of Sukkot is a new yontif called Shmini Atzeres, and that's why you say Shechiyanu. Tanya Gavas say Rav Nachman. We learned like Rav Nachman that you say Shechiyanu v'kiyimanu on Shmini Atzeres. It says Shmini Regel B'fnei Atzmai. It's considered its own yontif. Liyin Pozer Koshev. It's a Rosh Hashanah, 6 halachas. What's the first one? Pei stands for Payis B'fnei Atzmai. So it goes like this. All days of yontif, you have all these karbanos. Every kohen wants to be Zechut, to shech the carbon, to be makar of a carbon and yontif, to be in the Beis Hamikdash. So they divided up very nicely between the 24 mishmaris. Every mishmar got a chance to be makar. But when it came to Shmini Atzeres, which is a chag b'fnei atzmai, it's its own yontif, it didn't go with the mishmaris. It went with a raffle. Raffle. Pais b'fnei atzmai. Zman b'fnei atzmai. You say Shechiyanu individually for Shmini Atzeres. Regel b'fnei atzmai. It's its own yontif. You don't sit in the sukkah. It's own yontif. Carbon b'fnei atzmai. You bring a different type of carbon. You drop it down completely. It's one par instead of the 13-7 or whatever it is. Shira b'fnei atzmai. It has its own type. Because every day of yontif really has its own shira. But like Rashi explains, the shira during yontif of Sukkot is about giving matanis taniyim, like a chikropeh, these kind of matanis. And on Shmini Atzeres has nothing to do with that. It's a different topic. Bracha b'fnei atzmai, and in Shmini Esrei you say Chag Shmini Atzeres hazeh. It's a different thing than all other 7 days. You say Chag Sukkot hazeh. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.